Hello friends and those who love art. Welcome to Monet Cafe. If you think you're doing a double take on this video, you might be. This is on painting black or dark surfaces, and I'm remaking it because I noticed some sound issues from the video I made last night, but hopefully this one will be new and improved and better. But check out this painting that was done on a black piece of UArt paper. Oh, and often I forget to tell people, please subscribe to my channel. Look at that, we're almost at 10,000 subscribers at this point. And all you do is hit that subscribe button if you'd like to keep videos coming your way from our channel. And this is the photo I use, the reference photo. It's a picture from my backyard, and I just love the field that I have behind my house. I love this time of day when the sun's about to set. My friend who recently passed away called it the golden hour. It's a precious, precious few moments of this golden light. I've used this reference photo before. This was one I did with a more happy palette of bright colors. I had someone comment on the last video that the one I'm doing in this one is kind of gloomy, but I like gloom sometimes. But look at this. This is not gloomy. Look at our little kitty that you guys were helping me name. Your name suggestions were fabulous, but I saw her walking across my pastels and I thought the name Dusty was appropriate. So meet little Dusty, my little art pal. Okay, here we go. This is a piece of black UArt Dark paper, and it's a 500 grit, and it has it on the back. You can't see the grit, but that's the coarseness of the paper, and that's my little hinge system I use to put it up there. Now this is the color palette I've chosen. What I'm going to do to approach this dark surface is use the upper section there for a warm complementary underpainting. An underpainting is a great way to get some main colors established and to get your values right. So that's how I'm going to be approaching this, and then later I will add the complements to those colors, more of the blue and the greens and the purples on after I complete the underpainting. So let's get started. It's been my standard operating procedure lately to just go ahead and show you the pastels, not just in the tray that I use, but to go ahead and apply them. This is just a piece of newsprint. I love to cover my easel surface with newsprint so I can clean my pastels on them and also do what I'm doing now, show you the pastels and what they look like on the surface. So this is, again, the warmer tones for the complementary underpainting that I'm applying here, and now I'm going to be applying the cooler ones. And just so you know, complementary color, it's not all that confusing. Get yourself a pocket color wheel, and it has a wealth of information on it. Complementary colors are just the colors that are opposite across from each other on the color wheel. So your warm colors, your oranges, reds, and yellows, are opposite of the blues, greens, and purples. And that's just a real easy way to remember it. They're just opposites of each other. Okay, so now since I'm on a dark, almost black surface, I can't really use my standard charcoal I do to sketch things out, so I'm just using a lighter, kind of a gray. I didn't want to use white. This is a new pastel, N-U-P-A-S-T-E-L. That is a harder pastel, and I like the harder pastels. A lot of times the real soft ones that you apply at the end or any stage really of the painting, they get all the fanfare and the glory, but these new pastels are quite handy, and I use them often for sketching and even for underpainting. So right now what I'm doing is I'm not getting detail. I just want to get my bones of my painting down, and one of them is that crucial horizon line. I didn't want it to be in the center. I've noticed in a couple of my paintings when I wasn't paying attention to that, my horizon line kind of moved to the center, and I like it more in a third, either the upper third or the lower third of the painting. As a rule of thumb, you know, it doesn't, not every painting has to have it in the third section. Okay, so now I am going ahead and getting my underpainting. Underpainting, again, is just getting your canvas or your paper or whatever you're working on kind of covered. And I love a complementary underpainting. The colors that are opposite to whatever colors you'll be using for the final. I love the complements because they kind of peek through and they give the painting more vibrancy and interest. So if you were to take what I'm doing right now and convert this video to black and white, all I'm doing is taking the correct colors that equal the values that are in the photograph or the reference image that you'll be using. So the foregrounds are typically darker or in value. The lightness value just means lightness or darkness, and things in the distance are typically lighter in the distance. Now you have to take things in account. I mean, you may have some flowers in the foreground that have sun shining on them, and they're going to be brighter and perhaps lighter in value. But as a rule of thumb, things are darker in the foreground, lighter in the background with respect to perspective and you know, just the rules of nature. So I, again, look at that clump of trees in the foreground there in the reference image. Those are quite obviously the darkest thing in the image, and maybe some of those foreground grasses. But our brains sometimes don't work well when we translate a photograph to a painting. Often we don't perceive those little subtle value changes. Sometimes you can use a little value scale. There's a neat little tool called a value scale you can get. But a lot of times the more you do this, the more you just understand how it works, and you can create that illusion of depth. So what I'm going to be doing, you'll notice, is that dark grouping of trees is going to be the darkest. The next one that I'm working on here, they're a little lighter in value. They're further away. So that's why I did them that red color. It's not my lightest one. It's kind of middle value. Those background trees, those are the ones that are furthest away right there. I end up darkening those after a while. And that tree there, I end up changing that one too. That one actually is going to end up being darker. I didn't realize at this point. That one is probably the next in line. You've got the main mass that's to your right. That one's going to be now I'm darkening it. That one's going to be the next one with respect to distance. See, yeah, now I lowered the roots of that tree, or the trunk, and now I'm darkening that back. See, it's not quite as dark as the red one there to the right of it, but it's a little bit darker than I had it before. So you see how those value differences, if you could forget color, make that illusion happen. Now this is my little tool I discovered. It's actually the product of my daughter-in-law and my son. They came up with these makeup brushes they're amazing makeup brushes. I don't even wear makeup much, but it actually makes me like putting on makeup and makes me look younger. But I like using them even more for my pastel painting. This little one that's, I think, something for eyebrows, is great for getting blending in the little areas like that. I don't always blend my underpainting, but for this particular one I thought it would work well with putting the other colors I'm going to be using on top of it. And the sky, it was a little chunky, so I decided to blend that in a little bit. And so again, this is just the underpainting that kind of establishes where we're going with this, and that's really all it is. Now once the underpainting is established, I can go ahead and start adding some of the other colors in my color palette that I've pre-chosen. I love using purples as shadows. They work really well. They just add a little intensity and vibrancy to your work and or your piece that you're working on, and it just happens to be my favorite color. I love purple. I don't always use it, but I do use it a lot. Now I'm reestablishing some of the darks, and you have to do that often after the underpainting. Sometimes you realize, wow, this is not dark enough, or this is too dark. So constantly working on value just to make that believability and to create that illusion. That's what art is, an illusion. Now this is a neat pink that I found. It's like a magenta pink. I love it. It's going to be one of the colors I use for a little punch at the end. But I put it on the my working surface there, and I decided, I don't want to add it just yet. I want to wait a little bit before I add my impact of color. So again, still working on value, getting my my purples in certain strategic places, and now I'm just gonna paint a little while, let you guys enjoy the music. And by the way, I changed the music from the last video that I did of this same painting. I'm going to be deleting that video, by the way, but I ended up using this song that is probably my favorite composition of Moonlight Sonata, and it is just a song that's bittersweet. It has a mood to it that sometimes you feel the sadness in the music, and then sometimes you feel a little glint of joy and hope. And life is like that. It's a balance of or a valley of it's mountains and peaks and valleys and ups and downs and winter and summer, And life is just that way. You know, it's been that way since sin entered into the world. And, you know, we have a great hope, though. Again, someone mentioned that this painting was a little gloomy in the last video. And you know, I was reminded of the Bible verse that is in, I think it is 1 Peter 4:13, where we're reminded that, you know, Christ suffered. And he came to this earth to suffer and die. I mean, it can't get more gloomy than that. But he chose to take on human flesh and die for us. And you know what? It can't get more loving than that. So he also tells us that we will suffer in this world, but we can rejoice. We have such a great hope in him. And, you know, I don't always share my faith. I think it comes through. A lot of you mentioned that in my videos here. But what a wonderful opportunity to do that when we're, as artists, recreating from what he's already created. And it's just a beautiful thing. Sometimes I get thumbs down on my videos, and I sometimes wonder if it's, of course, I'm not the perfect artist. I'm going to get thumbs down. So people don't like it, that's fine, you know. I mean, that happens. But sometimes I wonder if it's maybe, you know, what I'm sharing. But it's my prayer that it just touches someone's heart, because we have a beautiful hope indeed, and I can't help but let it shine. So, all right, I'll start talking about painting again. I'm adding some pinks here. I just thought that sky needed a little bit of that. The upper atmosphere is typically a little darker. That's not always the case, but it's a kind of a rule of thumb. Now I'm adding that little pink pizzazz that I thought would be a brilliant color to just give the painting a little pop. If you've watched my videos, you know I just love color. Thought I'd add some of that pink to the third grouping of trees in the composition. And all right, now I'm going to do what I said. I'm going to paint a little while and let you guys enjoy one of my favorite songs, Moonlight Sonata. You might notice at this point I am still working on just mostly the warmer tones. I've got, except for the purple, some of those pinks. Oh, sorry for the jump in the video there. I don't want my grasses and things in the beginning to look all like just skinny grasses. It actually, grasses can become a barrier to the eye flowing into your painting if there's too much detail in them. So it's often good to just have them kind of impressionistic in the front, and not too much going on to stop the eye from entering the painting. So again, I haven't added any green or blue until I think coming up right now. Yes, okay, you see that green, and you see how it's a very dull green. It's not super vibrant, and it's still a little medium to darker in value, and that's because this scene, you know, notice again that golden hour when the sun is setting. There's going to be some light highlighted on certain areas, but a lot of the foreground and everything is still very dark and dull looking in color. That blue is just so gorgeous. And you know what's interesting I find with color, and if you've been painting much you probably know this, is that color and value is dependent on what is next to it. You can have that particular green I could put in another painting that has a lot of bold colors and it would look dull. You could put it in a painting that has a lot of dull colors and it would look bold. You know, so it's dependent on what's around it, and that little kind of pale dull greenish bluish color there, it kind of pops in the background there because of the complementary colors that are around it or surrounding it. Now this is a blue, this is a little brighter blue here, and that's another one of my little pizzazz colors. I'm adding a little bit of that just for pizzazz. That was a little too light there, so I marked it out or brushed it out. But again, you want to be sparing with your pop colors, your pizzazz colors, because if it's all pizzazz, I mentioned in the last version of this painting that, have you ever heard music that just sounds like noise? For me, sorry, I have to say that's kind of like rap music. Not that all rap music is bad, but a lot of it is just kind of angry and noisy, and that's because too much is going on at the same time, and that can happen with color. I like a color, I like bright and bold colors, but if you use it all bold and all pizzazz and high chroma, your painting's going to get busy and noisy. So just use it sparingly, and then it'll feel like a symphony instead of like rap music. Haha, I might get a thumbs down for that comment. Anyway, there's a place for everything, I guess, and everybody has their different tastes. But anyway, so I'll paint a little more and enjoy the pretty song. At this point I was thinking I need to back up and take a look at this, because in an attempt to not overwork it, it's just a good idea to back away. Don't get so into it, because there's a real propensity to overwork pastel paintings. So I stepped back, I kind of liked where it was at, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to call this one done. So after a few strokes I do that. And just so you know, I'm adding a black and white version of this. I just took a photo and converted it to black and white, so you can see that you can check your values by converting your image to black and white. It's a really good way to see if you're getting your values right, and this one worked. I liked it. So guys, I hope you like this second version of this painting, and I hope it's not too gloomy and it brought you some joy. And please subscribe and come back soon. I love having you guys visit and share your work on our Facebook group, Monet Cafe Art Group, especially if you recreate this painting. All right guys, happy painting!